Thank you so much, guys. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. This is the first LGBTQ History Month meeting. I wanted to get everyone together and just to talk about things and think about the year ahead and think about the year we just had, and also socially and locally what's going on and what everyone needs, really. I'm going to hand over to the panel shortly, but my name's Tom Stock and I run a non-profit Kaleidoscope. Thank you, thank you. That's actually not my mum, that's just a fan. So I'm going to hand you over to Louisa now.
So I didn't have to go first?
Oh, yeah. I did.
You missed your chance, girl, sorry. Do you want to?
What? Oh, yeah. This is the intro.
Yeah.
Should we start with Hi, I'm Louisa.
Hello, I'm Dr. Paul T. Davis. Yeah, you're not going to be too impressed when I tell you what I'm a doctor of, but I am a theatre maker. I teach theatre. I'm a director, more of that later. Actor, occasionally, and a playwright. My PhD, my doctorship, was on AIDS, queer theory, and theatrical discourses, 1982 to 1994. So I was one of the first people to write about the AIDS crisis.
Oh, wow.
So I can tell you how you should feel, but I can't perform open heart surgery.
Hi, I'm Kyron. And thanks. I play the guitar sometimes.
Oh, right. Hi, I'm Bobby, ex-Royal Navy, ex-teacher, ex-tutor, historian and scientist, so I've got a mixed bag in front of me, and I've taken time out of work, obviously, to transition. One of the other one is activism, which I'm very, very strong about, which people like Hannah are very aware of. So a lot of my input today will be from that perspective, if you will, in basically standing up to the hate that we all get from time to time, regardless of who we are.
As you can tell, I'm sitting partially in the audience and partially here. I do have a lot of anxiety, so if I say something weird, I expect you all to laugh. But my main interest is also looking at getting different communities, including those of different races, involved. And I think that's something that could be really beautiful.
So I thought we'd start off with a nice simple question today, and we had it from a lovely audience member. Why is the community so colourful?
Diversity is a big reason that I think we're so colourful, and not just obviously of our sexual orientation and gender, but like our culture and our lived experiences. Like we've all come together from completely different backgrounds, and it's like beyond anything we are so diverse and so loving to each other. And yeah, I think that just makes us very colourful and pretty.
I think the short answer is it's because we're fabulous.
Great.
But I don't know if it's a serious point. I think in my life I've gone from being at a certain point illegal, because it was the age of consent for homosexuality in men was 21 and over, in private with just two people. So yeah, I did break the law. So I've gone from being illegal to quite a strong visibility, and I think colour is important because you're showing the world that we are vibrant and not afraid to express ourselves, but also it gives us a sense of community and tribe. If we all wore the same football shirt, we would know which team we belong to or team we support. If I see somebody else who is wearing something rainbow, even if it's just a badge, I know that that would be a person I would probably be safe talking to if that was a stranger. So I think it does sort of join us together, and certainly during the 80s, when times were very dark for gay men in particular, against the Thatcherite government, there emerged a strong coalition between gay men and lesbians with Section 28 and legislation like that. And the colour, I think, really started to emerge then. as part of Defiance. So I think it's a celebration, but it also gives us a community feeling as well.
So what are some of the unexpected joys you've come across when supporting others? Beautifully written. Lovely.
I think Joe sees it and Hannah sees it when we go to the OutHouse with people that have been there, and then 6 months later or a year later they're a completely different person. And it's watching them grow with the confidence to become their authentic self. They feel pride in who they are, and they're walking the path they've always wanted to walk, and they've done that just by association with people who are already doing it.
I put knowing you are the person you needed when you were younger. Realising how far I've come myself, hearing myself give advice and be like, Louisa 5 years ago would not have been saying this. Finding that there is a bigger community out there, especially joining Tom's events and realising how many people there are, and knowing that we're setting up Dragonfly, like, amazing. Just friendship and fun, I feel like, is an unexpected joy sometimes. And knowing that everyone deserves to have a life worth living.
Bullet pointed things. I think seeing someone begin to love themselves the way that others do, especially when they're so afraid at the beginning, just watching that fear become excitement and just happiness and comfort in themselves. And especially of like the younger generation, I know a few of my younger relatives coming out and feeling normal, knowing that they have like people just like them and they're not alone. I think just seeing that switch from I don't know what to do to being so happy. That's it.
I think it goes really nicely with our first question about being colourful. I think we're all on our journeys, we feel a bit dull, we feel a bit apprehensive, and then when we find ourselves and we get that support we need, we kind of feel this inner acceptance and it rainbows out, it kind of falls out in a joy of colour, and then that turns into our self-expression. So, yeah, lovely. What can LGBTQ spaces do to provide greater intersectional inclusion for all members of the community?
I know from what I've seen when I've been in Colchester for the last 5 years is something that many people might not want to hear, but representation and those that seem to be in power are appearing to be white men who look, what one would say, more normative, attractive, and there is quite a big surge of white people who are seem homosexual, and they're running the place. And I know some people may be offended by that, but it is an opportunity to think about why would someone say that. The minute we get platform, we need to pass that platform to the next person, and we need to find a way to do it now before it's too late, before we go backwards like other countries are going backwards, about how we need to do more for the trans community anyway. I'm getting a bit like, what are we going to do? We need to do something. We have minorities inside of our community that deserve more.
Silence is consent. Inaction is consent. Allowing things to happen that you know shouldn't happen by doing nothing is consent, and it will keep on happening. Every time I see that, I confront it, and that's what we have to do. It's what society in general has to do. So if you are in a group of people and one of you is picked on, don't tolerate it. En masse, stand up and front it down, because your silence will mean that person is getting away with it, and they'll do it again. And one day they'll do it to somebody who absolutely crumbles in the face of that and will crawl home and never leave their front door again. I guarantee you one day we'll do that, nothing happens, then we'll find them hanging from a lamppost or something. And we have a vigil every year for those people. We cannot allow that hate to win. We have to front it down. We have to do it individually and we have to do it collectively. And the more we do it, the more society in general will see us doing it, and they see us standing up for ourselves. They will help to stand up for us too.
And what our community deserves is toilets. I want to see toilets for everyone. Because when I go home, I pee in that toilet, and so do many other people pee in that toilet. And at the end of the day, we all flush that burn. So I would like people to call people out. If you hear someone, or even you see someone give that person a dirty look, like they don't belong, to sit on the bog, say something.
I think stop using the phrase "we are fully accessible," because you're not. Because there is so many different disabilities, and sometimes maybe what you mean by we're step-free access, you know. But like, if you don't, but even then, like, if you don't have a quiet space for someone that's got autism or ADHD, if you don't have a chill space, if you don't have the right lighting, even toilets, they're like, this is a fully accessible toilet. Do you have a hoist? Do you have a changing room? Do you have the buttons that go up and down? Because if you don't, you're not. And I just, there are ways to make yourself more accessible. Oh. But please stop using the phrase "we are fully accessible," because I can guarantee you are not.
To begin with, I didn't know of many of the gender-neutral toilets dotted around, and if I needed to pee, I would trek 15 minutes across campus to find that one toilet that I knew about. Eventually, they started saying, you know, use the accessible toilets too, you know, they're for everyone. I kind of had some interesting, I was like, I don't understand how that works completely, because they are for people that need specifics. I just need a toilet that people don't judge me in. It got to a point where they said, you know, you keep using the accessible toilets, then they locked them for a period of time, and I was like, so now where do I go? Because the gender-neutral toilets also had the accessible logo on it. So it's like, so I can't go in these toilets, I can't go in the women's toilets, I can't go in the men's toilets, so do I just not pee? I ended up at one point having like a half an hour trek around campus looking, got some other people involved. There was a whole little like, we need to find a toilet for this person, we need to go. Eventually managed to go and then found out that now we needed a key to use those toilets, and I could buy one for £5. I'm not buying a key to use the fucking toilet. Sorry, excuse my French. I was very angry, but things got changed. They got sorted there. But I know that it's not just the Essex campus that happens. That's in a lot more places, and more changes need to be made. So.
If you had a magic wand and could do something positive for the community, one thing, like a genie wish, what would you do?
I assume I wasn't allowed to use the word assassination, but if I had a magic...
we're on camera, so maybe say aggressive hug.
I am not.
You would aggressive hug.
Violence in any way, but it's the elimination of prejudice. If you had a magic wand that you could just wave and certain thought processes would reverse, especially when it comes from the mouths of certain politicians.
I went a bit autistic with this question. I was like, I don't understand what type of magic wand we have here. So I've got 3 answers.
Go for it.
So the first one is like a completely magic wand, like absolute miracles, is if it really was magic, acceptance and no more discrimination and hate. Like, you know. A realistic one, if I was a billionaire, would be a safe space open 24/7. Basically use Debenhams, but have like different sections. So like a work computer area, a cafe, a chill with beanbags, workshops, youth clubs. Like basically everything we have in the area, but in one place and open 24/7. Is education workshops in schools and colleges to, you know, have representation and education and making everyone feel like they are normal and a part of it and that, you know, allowed in society. Because I certainly didn't feel like that.
You know what? We're all actually equal, aren't we? There is no otherisation going on based on the boundary or the pencil drawn on the map. We all have the same rights of a place to live, food, daily, clean water to drink, daily, clothes on our backs, shoes on our feet, the right to further ourselves with education and endeavour, and the right to feel safe wherever we may be. Those things can only come from a society that believes in genuine safety for everybody and genuine equality for everybody. Too much greed, avarice, too much Trumpism and Muskism and Putinism, etc., etc., etc. And these people have this power. As adults, we have a choice. As children, we don't necessarily have a choice, but as children, we can educate our kids in the right way. We can introduce the idea of the spectrum of life in all its glory, the electromagnetic spectrum, the colour spectrum, the gender spectrum, the sexuality spectrum. Everything lives on a spectrum.
I think if I had a magic wand, people wouldn't care what we had in our pants anymore, and whether or not what they had made it okay to love them. I'd look like me, go into a toilet and not be interrogated for it, and rights would be based on the fact that we are all human and bleed red.
Beautiful. This is what we like, people inspired by what we're talking about. Go on.
So, I've had experience as a neurodivergent person, and one of the things I've noticed is there's a lot of, how do I put this nicely? There's a lot of things where charities and non-profits want people to get involved and to share their voices, but they are sometimes very big charities or national companies, and they don't offer any incentive for you to come and essentially do like 2 hours work, very emotionally taxing work. And I wanted to ask how people think we can combat having to rely on people's own voices without any kind of incentive, particularly when it comes to larger charities. I don't know if that made any sense.
The first question is, you're the one who doesn't feel incentivised, so what would make you feel incentivised?
I always go back to this one example. I used to have an employer and I requested reasonable adjustments, and he got paid for that meeting and I did not. I wish there was more regulations around this sort of thing, particularly when it comes to asking for people's views and what would help them, and that could be in the form of payment or in the form of, you know, actually giving credit to you when you say something, referencing you even. I've taken your wishes into account when telling your story. I've also accessed like support schemes. Some of them want to use you as a case study. I've had some charities where they've let me have complete control on the narrative, brilliant, reference me, credit that is my work. But other ones will just kind of use you as sort of generic inspiration, and I think that kind of needs to stop.
Right, okay, there's a few layers of this onion in there, isn't there? One of the things that I'm doing with my life at the moment is I'm getting more and more involved in the political side of things. I want, as you, I want legislative change, and the only way to do it is to get inside the machine. I can't do it from the outside, otherwise it would have happened by now. So in that regard, you're basically, in simple terms, feeling invisible, and in some cases used. Well, that's wrong, but how to change that, again, has to come from procedural and legislative change. But we, again, I've had this conversation with many people before. To change, you need to know what's wrong. To know what's wrong, we need people like you to tell us what's wrong. And then we can move forward with, well, this is wrong, therefore this needs to change. So it's not on your shoulders to do this, but it's on your shoulders to start the ball rolling by going to those places and saying, you're not doing this for me, why should I come and be part of you? And if enough people were to do that, they would have to listen, because they're going to run out of people to go and see, and they would see other charities who are doing that becoming more successful and getting more people. So you're going to have to be brave and have your voice heard by speaking the words out loud, or by writing it down and sending it in, or by getting involved with people who are trying to do that on your behalf.
So I do a lot of volunteering with various companies, things like that, and I would say if a company can afford to pay their CEO hundreds of thousands of pounds, they can afford to make you as comfortable as possible, even in a volunteering position. If you are giving up your own time and your own emotions and your own story, which is priceless, really, like, people want these opinions and they want your life, and that they think, oh, you know, anyone can speak, but that has a cost. Like, even if it's not a monetary value, it's a cost to you and it's a cost to your well-being as well, because you might then go home and be like, oh god, this has been a really, like, oh, I need a breather now, and you may not be able to do something the next day. You may need like just a rest day because of that. And they should, if they can afford to pay their CEO, they can afford to at least pay for your travel, and if you're traveling far, you know, food and hotel. And I think you shouldn't be afraid to say that this is not okay.
One of the things that really bugs me, particularly from a disabled point of view, is when buildings are inaccessible. And when I say inaccessible, they can have the wheelchair ramp and everything else. But if it's at the back of the building, if I'm not able to go in the same door as everybody else, that is not accessible. So that is something that needs to be looked at. And there are ways, if the Ritz in London can have their steps move, then there are ways that you can incorporate lifts and wheelchair ramps and stuff like that.
Yeah, listening to what was being said, I think that one of the issues is about they want to use what we say, but don't let us have the power to and acknowledge our contribution. It's one thing to be listened to, but it's also about what's the effect of that listening. And so they can listen as much as they want, but if they don't do nothing, or they do what they were going to do anyway. Because one of my experiences is often when someone says to me, I want to consult you, it means they've got their idea of what they want to do. They just want to add the nice flourish on it. And it's about us actually having, not just coming forward with things, but actually having the power to say, well, this is what we need, this is what we want, make those things happen. And that's probably about changing the kind of, what you said about the organisation being mostly white guides making the decisions.
I'm sorry that the people have made you feel invisible and used. Like, I certainly, as a neurodivergent person, late diagnosis last year of autism, and something I found in organisations, particularly the one that I'm working in, is that they sometimes, like you said, like to use your story, but there isn't that aftercare in that, and there's no kind of like follow up. And actually, when you think counsellors, for example, when they counsel people, they have to also receive their own counselling. There's a supervisory thing there of care afterwards, because it takes a lot out of you. If them stories are being used by that organisation for a business purpose at the end of the day, then they should see that aftercare that they're giving the people their sources of them stories. It should be that they see that as business critical investment. They should be putting their money where their mouth is and making sure that aftercare is in place for people. I think, yeah, we have much more power. They don't get to advocate for us. We are the ones who get to tell them what we want.
I just want to add one thing to what you've said. If you go somewhere and you don't feel that you're being valued, that's to everyone in this room actually, leave. Take your value that you are freely giving away and take it somewhere where it's appreciated. I don't care whether that's in a relationship, whether that's in your job. We have to, as a community, recognise our own value and hold it at a bar and say, right, this is my level. You need to pay for my expertise. You need to treat me in a certain way. And when you fall beneath that bar, I'm going to up with my feet. I'm going to trot off. And when enough people do that, people then kind of go, oh shit, I need to change something because everyone's over there. All the resources, everything is over there. So don't let people walk and take advantage. Do something about that. That's your power. Hold on to it.
Thank you.
So the question that you guys are answering is the one about gender and sexuality. Are they fluid?
Short answer, yes. Slightly long-winded answer. I'll give you a bit of a brief life story. So when I was 15, I came out to my close circle of friends as gender fluid, because at the time I knew something was up, but I didn't know what. And I felt right. I felt comfortable. When I was 19, like right in the middle of lockdown, I had a lot of time with my thoughts, like a lot of time. And at that point, I was like, no, actually. actually, I think I identify as a man. So I told my family, and they were supportive, and we took it slow, and it was like trying to see if I liked it, felt comfortable. Still didn't feel right. And then 21, 22, I was like, actually, non-binary, that feels right. And then I came out openly, and it was a really good decision. My point is that it's almost a decade of figuring myself out. And just because I don't identify as a man now, for instance, doesn't mean that at that time I was any less of one. I still felt comfortable and happy in my skin at that moment. We evolve and adapt to what feels right to us. In 10 years down the line, I have no clue. I mean, in a decade, I've gone through like a lot. So yeah, essentially, you can be whoever you want to be as long as you're comfortable and you're happy. That's all that matters.
Again, short answer, of course, why can't it be? But who is it that decides on someone's sexuality or gender anyway? You? Or me? The answer's always me. And for you, the answer's always me. Yeah.
What was it like for you growing up LGBTQ plus, and has anything changed for today's youth? I think was the full question. So yeah, growing up, there was obviously struggles. I mean, school, there was no sex ed about, it was a man and a woman and that was it. Like, you know, I sort of grew up thinking I was like wrong, and I thought there was something wrong with me because all these girls around me were like, oh, he's fit, and oh, look at him, or have you seen Mr. Thing today? You know, like, and I was like, what are you on about? And the idea of a man just repulsed me, and then I sort of went on a discovery of like, oh, maybe I'm asexual because maybe I just, you know, and then sort of came to, you know, lesbian sort of at 18. I'm hoping it's, you know, a lot better for today's youth, but visually I see a lot more young people expressing themselves. They're, you know, everyone has pin badges on and they're colourful and they're, you know, and I think the best thing that I can see at the moment is the amount of children and teens and families that are at Colchester Pride. I feel like that is I know that is like a safe space in itself, but it's just really nice to, like, I never had any of that growing up, and there's you know, there's two wives with their I just feel, I don't know about you guys, but I just have that like warming heart, like I need this.
Round of applause for Colchester Pride.
Yeah.
No, what it was like for me. So I grew up, I went to a Catholic primary school. I had this lovely group of friends, these sisters that had a wonderful family that I was very much thinking, I'd love to be part of that family. I went and moved somewhere. I wasn't allowed to go to the Catholic secondary school because my parents weren't together. So then I just developed self-hatred and assumption that people who are Christian are going to hate me. And it's not the case. And literally 2 days later, I was like, I better start coming out. You don't know what's next. I was like, I need to come out. I need to tell everyone. And I didn't tell everyone. And I still had self-hatred. And then one day I realised, this is actually my problem. This is my own self-problem. I know it's a taboo often in the LGBTQ plus community, but I also accept that I'm Christian. And I might not fit the recognition of what people see Christianity as. But I'm telling you, that family, when they see me and they see my wife, they are joyful. That family that I thought couldn't accept me, they are joyful. So don't, you've got to accept yourself, but you also don't discriminate as well. Like, because otherwise we're going back in a circle. We're like, they're the bad people. And then we're just othering. And when we're just as low as those people, if we start that.
It's what Bobby was saying earlier about tolerance and acceptance. It's like, let people show you through their actions. You know, they can say they're all this and they're all that, and we do this and we do that, but actually, you know, as what Bex and Hannah and Joe were saying, like, you know, you can be disabled friendly, you can be neurodiverse and everything, but what are you doing? And it's kind of the same thing that you bring up really beautifully, which is, yes, just because they're a Christian doesn't necessarily mean that they're those kind of Christians.
Well, speaking as the elder of the tribe, I grew up in the South Wales Valleys in a mining community with a very homophobic father, and generally a very homophobic society, and it was really difficult. Theatre, I think, saved my life, because there's an allowance of performativity within theatre. So when I was the Wicked Witch of the West, I was a bloody good Wicked Witch of the West, because I just felt I didn't have words for it at the time, but looking back, I found a way to express certain aspects of me that I didn't give myself access to and didn't know I could have access to. So it's been quite a long process, I think, and it was very difficult for me. I love the expression comfortable in your own skin, because I think that's where I'm at now. But it took a long time to get there. There is more opportunities for people to be who they are now, and to talk about it, and to find their tribe, and to communicate. And there's two things. One is to talk, and the other is to listen. I think in some aspects it's easier, but I think that some of the struggles are still the same, because you need to be in an environment that's going to nurture you as a person. And if you don't get that nurturing, that's the issue for me, really. So nurture yourself and each other. And I'm a very proud original dancing queen.
Okay, so can we give a wonderful round of applause for the wonderful Bobby? Kyron? Yeah, got the fan club in tonight, yeah. Wonderful Paul? Louisa? Rachel? And me, Tom Stott. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful LGBTQ History Month, and have a wonderful year, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.